cutting edge of anomaly research. You are about to experience The Evidence with your host, 3D pioneer and image analyst with Mars X3D, D.W. Burnett.
Well, hello there. Pull up a chair and let's take a look at episode number 67 of The Evidence from Mars X3D. This is your buddy Dave, and just a reminder, this is an X3D stereographic channel, and if you haven't already learned how to do it, it's so easy. 2 minutes. Look at the links down below. A couple of tutorials will get you going in no time at all. And just a reminder that if you have anything that you'd like me to take a look at, go ahead and email it to me. Now, it's no guarantee it'll get used, but I am very interested in what you are seeing as well. So enough talk right now. Let's go ahead and get into it. Most of the time, I'm showing you non-fractal anomalies that incorporate the mathematics of intelligent agency. I'm going to break my own rule today by starting out with a couple items that are probably just rocks, but their characteristics made a question mark pop up in my mind. This context view is directly off Neal's Gigamacro of 2687, and you can see the format they use to mark finds. If you go there, you can zero right in on the various items I and other researchers have found without having to plow through 100 blurry, nondescript snapshots like the Gigapan site has. That is, when the Gigapan site is actually working. This caught my eye because it looks so much like a badly corroded piece of metal that had gone through some kind of heat blast. You've probably seen motorcycle exhausts that have colors burnt onto the chrome because of the hot pipes. Or maybe you've worked in industrial settings where you've seen something like it on heat-treated parts. In any case, it's easy to see that this bears absolutely no resemblance to the rocks around it. Let's move in closer. See what I mean? It has the look of twisted, corroded metal, at least to my eyes. There are even some bright spots where it looks like the metal is shining through. It's okay if you don't agree, but I thought we ought to take a look at it anyway. Here's another one. That piece on the left really looks like slag to me. You know, the impurities that are skimmed off the surface of molten steel and tossed out onto the slag heap. Look at a couple earthly examples here and see if you don't agree. They seem similar to what we're seeing in this image. It's all conjectural, of course, and these could be just uniquely eroded pieces of rock. But since we've found so many metallic artifacts on Mars, it kind of does make you stop and think. There's a ton of stuff to find in this Gigamacro, and if you're at all interested in finding your own anomalies, this is a good one to cut your teeth on. Anyway, I ran across this squarish piece that seems to have a perfect hole in it. The piece also looks like it might be metal. This is about as close as we can get without the image breaking up. So there's no close-up on this one, but it's still pretty easy to see. We found nice holes in a lot of other places as well. Here's another example of what seems to be a piece of formed sheet metal with a perfect hole in it. Maybe someday we'll do a video on sheet metal anomalies with holes. I suppose we'd have to call that episode Holy Sheets. I'm sorry. We're still in the same Gigamacro, and I picked out this strange thing way off on the horizon. As we get closer, of course, the image begins to degrade, but we can see something that looks almost like a futuristic kind of gun mounted on a roughly cubical block. We're really pushing the photographic limit on this one. You can see the photographic artifacts on the so-called gun barrel, kind of a white tide line. But still, the cubical block and this piece of ordnance maintain their shape. I find it tough to believe that rock would weather in this way at this angle without breaking off. And of course, isn't it interesting how it erodes with bilateral symmetry? Here's something I found a few years back that might also be ordnance. Are these rockets or some kind of particle beam weapon? Who knows? I can tell you one thing for sure, though. They're not rocks. Terry posted this one just the other day from Sol 2702's MastCam. You can see the coffin shape even in the context view down there on the left. It's even easier to see in this close-up, but if you're having trouble seeing it, I'll highlight it a couple of times for you. It really does look like a vault, doesn't it? For my Iowa friends, a vault is the protective box you put the coffin in. Of course, down home we just wrap people in horse blankets, but fancy people use a vault. Could it just be a chance venifact carved out of sedimentary rock? Yep, sure could be. But the evenness of the shape, the nicely rounded top, the square corners, well, the jury's out on this one. In that same image where Terry found his coffin, I ran across a couple other things that caught my eye. This first one is a perfectly non-fractal block that looks to have either carvings or controls of some kind mounted on the side facing us. As we get closer, the image starts to break up, that's expected, but we can clearly see that this is a manufactured item. That big knob on the left and the two little knobs in the right corner all look round. Kind of reminds me of an old radio set. As you can see, there's all kinds of stuff in this picture that needs a closer look. I'm going to leave that to you. This next one kind of looks like a drawer just sitting in the sand. So, riddle me this, Batman. If this is just erosion, how did erosion make that knob dead center and perfectly round? Why is that lip on top so even from one side to another? And how did all those perfect 90-degree angles form? Mars really is an amazing place, isn't it? Neville Thompson is about the only guy I know of who's making Gigapans out of the ChemCam images. And they're pretty interesting because we often find things that NASA doesn't get around to blurring out or doing a copy-paste of sand over them. My friend Jim West, who's a tireless researcher, noticed this one just the other day. You can see those square platforms clear enough, but there's other stuff here too. So I'm going to highlight it a couple of times to make it a bit easier. By the way, I tried to get the metrics from Nev on this one, but he never got back to me on that, and this particular soul hasn't made it into the analyst's notebook just yet, so I couldn't chase down the metrics myself. My feeling, though, from viewing the entire image, is that these are relatively far away and therefore are large anomalies, not tiny stuff close to the camera. And as usual, Murphy is at work once again, placing items of interest right on the very edge of the picture. These are massive forms in any case, and they appear to have terraces down below. Terry found this one a couple of days ago, and it seems pretty compelling. You can see that perfect rectangular block up there on the right. It really does give the appearance of being a brick wall. Let's get in even closer and see what we get. That's really nice and even, isn't it? Now, bear in mind, I have a lot of respect for Terry and the research he does. So please don't get the idea I'm tearing him or anybody else down when I try to do an objective analysis on what we're seeing. There are two things that bother me about this one. The first is that it appears to be quite small, on the order of a couple inches tall. Now, of course, it could be a wall built by a tiny being, and there are a lot of people who are absolutely convinced there's such a race of beings on Mars. I'm not one of them, yet. But I am open to the possibility if it's supported by clear evidence. The second thing is just this. From everything we've found in stone on Mars, it's clear that the ancient Martians were master stonemasons who apparently had no limitations when it came to manipulating their environment. So, look at those bricks, if that's what they are. They're stacked, one on top of another. If you've ever built a brick wall, you know that if you don't stagger the bricks from one course to the next, you're creating a real structural problem, both in load-bearing or compression forces, and in stability or shear forces that affect the wall laterally. I'm very tempted to think that this is a natural formation, with all due respect to Terry. Maybe you remember the cinder block wall found by Phil Cox. You can see that these blocks are longer than those we use here on Earth, that they're staggered, and even have perfect mortar lines between the blocks, not to mention the roots that appear to be hanging down over the wall. In my opinion, this is one of the best and most convincing images of an artificial wall yet to be found. Hey, thanks for stopping by today. I sure appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to pay a little bit of attention to what we're doing here. You know, if you saw something you liked, please consider giving me a thumbs up. It's the only pay I get, and it lets me know that it's okay to continue all the work involved with bringing this to you. And by the way, if you have a friend or an acquaintance who you think might possibly be interested in this kind of weirdness, by all means, please consider sharing this channel with them. Remember to look below in the description for all the links you need to all the images, tutorials, email, and everything else related to this channel. In the meantime, this is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D. Be well.